K-Tel Records presents another great new stereo LP. 20 solid hits, 20 original stars. The Raiders,
Cherokee people,
Tommy James,
I'm coming home.
the Stampeders,
Sweet, sweet, sweet city woman.
Honeycomb, Don,
Oh, my darling, not 3 times.
Chase,
Say I feel inside of sight. Get it on in the morning now.
Laura Lee,
Stand up and fight for your love right.
Belle,
Gonna stay with him a while.
Blood, Sweat, and Tears,
Old town cowboy.
Ocean,
Put your hand in the hand of the man.
Mark Lindsay, Brewer and Shipley, Dust, Davy Jones, Wilson Pickett, Delaney, Bonnie and Friends, and many more. 20 solid hits, 20 original stars on one stereo LP. Only $3.99.
There's what inside this cold reliever?
Liquid. New Comtrex liquid gels. Liquid cold medicine inside an easy-to-swallow gelatin shell for relief of all these symptoms.
New Comtrex liquid gel.
The all-new way to get fast Comtrex relief.
They did it. Just in time for my year as Miss America. They created Ultimate Hold Adorn. Just one spray of Ultimate Hold Adorn with the exclusive touch top, and I'm ready for a long, busy day. Ultimate Hold Adorn holds longer and better than any hairspray I've ever used. If you've got a long day ahead, try new Ultimate Hold Adorn. Just one spray takes you through a long, long day.
Now, perfect polish nails in seconds. Lee press-on nails in fashion colors. Press-on color, no messy polish. Press-on color, no drying time. Press-on color, no chipping ever. Lee press-on nails in fashion colors. Everything you need for longer, polished nails. Lee Super Stick tabs and 20 Lee press-on nails in a variety of sizes. Available in a rainbow array of today's popular colors. So press on. Lee press-on nails now in fashion colors.
ABC presents the movie of the week. Original motion pictures for television. ABC knows how to make them. We proved that with the movie of the week. This season, we're proving it again. The ABC Movie of the Weekend. Another first-run movie for television. Every week. Another season of world premieres. Motion pictures for television. The movie of the week has found its place. The movie of the weekend will too. Dennis Weaver.
Okay, Jack, I've had it.
This is a great movie.
Why is he doing this?
You can find it and watch it. Even spoiled a little bit to it. But
Jewel.
and Tom Pinoy.
Bellboys, brutal cab drivers, careless doormen, ruthless porters.
You got Tom Pinoy playing with some furniture, luggage over here, furniture.
And all butterfingered
Furniture
luggage
and luggage, look at that.
all over the world. Have we got a suitcase for you?
Oh, what a meal, oh,
Hamburger helper lasagna.
for your family.
Authentic Italian taste.
Hearty robusto, but not too spicy, eh?
Hamburger helper lasagna turns your plain hamburger into a delicious Italian meal with authentic Italian taste. Curly Italian noodles, rich tomato sauce, and a better blend of spices.
Hamburger helper, lasagna, helper, hamburger helper, make a great meal, oh.
When he got on a plane in Portland, Oregon last night, he was just another passenger who gave his name as D.A. Cooper. But today, after hijacking a Northwest Airlines jet, ransoming the passengers in Seattle, then making a getaway by parachute somewhere between there and Reno, Nevada, the description on one wire service, master criminal.
Welcome to Accelerated Deconstruction, also known as XD. Thank you, Damien Yelling, for this awesome title. It's all right, Prostate. It's Saturday, and it's time for Accelerated Deconstruction, or XD, as we like to call it around here. If you hear it, if you listen deep in the background, you can hear the pig oinking all night long. That's right.
That's right.
What's up, y'all?
I properly don't know.
Dude, I think I lobotomized myself. I swear to God. There's got to be.
I don't know. I feel pretty good. I'm happy. Baseball season's in full effect, and I know that's going to bore most people, but I happen to like baseball, but only when my team's good, and the Royals are good again. Mark my words, they're going to be good this year.
It's all about the man ass, isn't it? With you, man. I got you. I got
That's why I watch. I just like how the uniforms look on the dudes. I'm that gay.
I want some socks like that. They're awesome. Oh, sexy socks. So let's say hey to Fat Andy. What's up, man? Welcome aboard. Dr. Demers, Josh, you are awesome as usual. Retarded genius, of course. You too. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Yoshi the Macabre. Greetings. Becca Fairley. My friend. I don't know, man. Anywho, so what's everybody up to? What's your Saturday been like?
Colorful. It's
watched-
egg dyeing time, guys.
Yeah, them eggs.
I watched the Royals scored 10 runs on the Texans, which makes it in 2 games they've already scored 24 runs. Now, that's only a big deal to people like me because there's been seasons where they didn't make it to 24 runs scored until the second week of the season.
Yeah. So is there like a betting line about that or something? You know, kind of like have an
Like
over
a
under.
betting line? Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I don't think anybody was betting on them to hit that much in those games. It's just it's one of the baseball's weird, right? So anybody that pays attention to baseball, it's not like, Alabama being good every year because they go get the best recruits, right? You have these small market teams like the Royals where they basically spend about 7 years to make a team work, right? So they won the World Series in 2015. They were good for a couple more years, but during that time they started selling the team away because they weren't winning, and they built up their farm system. And it takes a long time for baseball players to develop, right? But that's all kind of came to fruition, and then they actually decided to spend some money this year, and they look good again. They look competitive, so pretty happy about that. But yeah, that's the best you can hope for whenever you have a small market team as your home team, is just to be good like every 4 to 5 years for a couple years before you start to suck again. Because then when everybody that you have on your team that's good gets a contract, you can't afford it, so they'll go to other teams.
Yeah, there's a cycle. There's definitely a cycle, that's for sure.
Yep.
Definitely a cycle.
I don't know, the Royals were bad for like 30 years until they won the World Series in 2015. So the fact that we only had to wait like 7 for another competitive team is pretty miraculous. But anyway, nobody came here for that.
They came here to get blasted with the fires of hell.
Mm-hmm.
You're fixing to see it.
Or we're going to get blasted with the fires of hell.
I'm down with that.
Right, so the plan today is, if you've been tuning in the last couple weeks, we're going to try, my goal at least, is to finish that Carlin Poroshenko video,
right,
where she's going over this interview with this person that's running the New Hampshire diversity, equity, and inclusion program, right? For the University of New Hampshire. Sorry. Before I get there, though, there's a couple things that I saw this week that really it kind of like struck a nerve when I saw it. First off, I think it's Georgia that decided they're doing race-based priority for getting vaccinated.
Right.
That's Vermont.
Vermont. Okay. It's just ridiculous, right? Like that is absolutely 100% out of the social justice playbook.
And
like they're like in the name of health equity.
Don't you get it? They're being put up as guinea pigs, man.
Yeah, there's one way to look at it, right? Like you can look at it that way, or you can just say that they're doing it arbitrarily, which I honestly think is more likely to be the case.
They're doing it out of equity. It's not arbitrary. It's out of equity. No.
Well, it's arbitrarily in the name of
I was
equity,
joking.
Particularly health equity.
Tuskegee experiment, notwithstanding, I still was joking about that.
This is literally the eugenics, though, because they've gone to the elderly to test it. They're rolling it out among the poor first. Mm-hmm. And then before they even try to use the general populace as a test subject, they're going to children. Now, I don't know what y'all have read about eugenics, but what I've read about eugenics, that's eugenics.
Yeah, the idea that you're giving it to kids because they have almost no transmissibility rate is just insane.
Well,
and that's what's really fucking bothering me about
It's bigger than that. No, Excel, it's even bigger than that. It is in violation of the Geneva Convention to do any sort of medical testing on children whatsoever. There is not a single vaccine on the planet that has test results for children, because since the 1940s, we have had a group of people sit down and say, no, we will fuck you up if you do any testing on children. And now those same people are testing children. As a parent, you can't even give consent for your kids to be part of something like that. And you can go to like international prisons for doing this. This isn't just a thing that's wrong in America. This is the entire civilized world has decided you are not allowed to test things on children.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense too. But even that aside, I have to stress that even if it was completely tested, it wouldn't really make sense to give the vaccine to kids.
Right.
Well, okay, so the vaccine passport, big fucking question. They said if you have food allergies, you can't get the jab, right?
You shouldn't. Yeah, there's certain people that just honestly should not get it.
Okay, well, I have diagnosed food allergies, so I can't get the jab. That means I can't go to certain stores to go shopping. I can't travel to see my family because I was born with a food allergy.
Well, and that's even the idea of a vaccine passport should be worrying to everybody. Like the way you need to put this to your liberal friends that think, oh, there's no way Joe Biden would, nefariously announce this. You don't understand how government and big corporations like Big Pharma work. Once they set that precedent, all of a sudden Big Pharma is going to come out with all sorts of reasons to have mandatory vaccines where you have to get your vaccine passport updated. And they're going to take that all the way to the bank. And if you don't think that's going to happen, you're a fucking idiot.
Right. Well, right now it's a violation of HIPAA laws in the United States.
Yeah, there's no way. Like, I mean, it's absolutely unconstitutional, and I'm glad right now it's just a theoretical argument. But if they actually try to pass that fucking bill, which I don't put it past the Democrats for trying to do it, I would want to see Joe Biden's shit first. I mean, if we're going to make all of our medical records open for society to read, I want to read his first. Yeah, this is one of those things where I know I've been wrong before, but I'm pretty sure that like this might fly in Europe, but I don't think I think even a lot of people on the American left are going to be like, no, we don't want this. This is fucking stupid. And we don't want the government requiring some sort of papers, please, just to go out in public. We'll see. Anyway, like on the same topic, what caught my eye was this article from the what? Oh, you were talking to Uzi. What caught my eye was this article from the American Institute for Economic Research. We're not going to read the entire article, but I will post it in the chat so you can watch it if you want. There's also, the article is actually just a transcript of an interview, so you can watch the video as well. But what it is they interviewed an Oxford research named Sunetra Gupta, which I probably am pronouncing that wrong because nobody can pronounce Indian names. But she's a researcher at Oxford University, which is far from some sort of conservative think tank, right? And since this started, she's been monitoring the data, and she's one of the main authors of something that you probably never heard of called the Great Barrington Declaration, where they came out and said that lockdowns don't work. We need to do some sort of focused attack because the price of lockdowns, it disproportionately is going to hurt the poor and lower class people, and it's going to cause major damage.
And middle class.
That's what she's argued. And
right.
she's gone through the data and has shown that these lockdowns, like, you can't see the difference other than all these ancillary effects that the lockdowns are going to cause. Like, we should just not be doing this. And so you would think in normal times, right, when you have hundreds of epidemiologists that just say, like, these policies are bad, like, we need to stop this. You would think that, we would have heard about this, right? And that there would have been some sort of public debate and public discussion about the policies that we're using. But this passage in the interview, it struck me as strikingly similar to the nonsense we see from social justice. Let me bring it up. It's probably easiest instead of trying to find it in the article, just reading it. So she was asked about, like, if she's, what's going on with why people aren't listening to her. And she said it's mystifying, right? Of course, myself and then another researcher at Oxford, Carl Hannigan, who has been very, very active in showing the data, showing evidence-based medicine. Well, he is the head of evidence-based medicine here in Oxford, and he has taken a very data-driven approach to this whole process. And we were both asked to, it's no secret now, to present our ideas at a cabinet meeting, right, with the government. But then they immediately dismissed it, and they did not debate it at all. There was no debate. Debate was actively shut down, and it was mystifying to me. In fact, what happened instead was a series of ad hominem attack campaigns that were launched against us. Doesn't that sound really fucking familiar?
Yeah, it does.
That is exactly what happens,
right,
if you go against
the woke thing.
The woke.
Yeah, this struggle session. And does that surprise you though? The government, they don't see. They want Anthony Fauci's that who fish for what they, what they think they want them to hear, and then they he presents that, right? And if everybody shakes their head yes, he's like, okay, good, I'm a good boy. Give me my milk bone.
It makes me wonder if this is so. My thought has always been the reason that all the data says that all this. Well, and hold on, I want to, for the sake of iRate's channel, go back. The official CDC position is you should wear masks and socially distance, and don't go anywhere you don't need to, and don't go to any large gatherings.
Without
I am dissenting from that, right? So what I always thought is that initially these sound like plausibly good ideas, right? Like this could work to do something. And when they found out it didn't, well, the government never admits that they did anything wrong, right? They always double and triple down. You can just expect it. Anytime government has a program that's not working, they're going to double and triple down, and they're going to say things like, well, it would have been so much worse if we wouldn't have done this. Whenever their projections are just completely wrong. But now I think it's more of an experiment in getting people in line, getting people to submit.
This
And
isn't even
with
an
that,
experiment. They think they have it in the bag.
Well, they do. Like, to be real honest, with a
No, they
large
don't.
swath of the population.
No, they really don't. They want you to think they do, but they don't. Do you know that I live inside
doesn't-
Portland? No, hold on. I live in Portland. I put on a shirt or a hat that looks like a MAGA hat, and it says "Relax, idiots." It's just a hat, but it looks like a MAGA hat. Did you know that nobody was offended by it? I walked around the store today, the day before Easter, with a shirt that says United States of America and Dumb Buckistan on it. And Oregon is highlighted in bright blue with the rest of them on the shirt. Do you know that I only got smiles and thumbs up for my fucking shirt? No, Excel, they don't have the control.
So what I was going to say before you said that is, I agree that it's not even the majority of people. It's just when it comes to ideologies like this,
it's a moment
that demand conformity. In order for it to have real ramifications on society, you don't need a majority of people. You don't even need 10%. I think it's like 8%, right?
Mm.
You can get 8% of people on board.
What percent of the population?
For this,
Excel.
then you can scare everybody into policy or accepting this kind of policy.
All right, so here's a question: what percentage of the population do you think would suffer from, I don't know, gender dysphoria disorder?
It's less than 1%.
Okay, what about homosexuality? Hold on. Homosexuality.
That's about like what, 4%?
All right. What about African American?
14.
The United States, right? Makes you think, because it's being taken advantage of by people. Obviously, it's about money to these fucks. It doesn't mean jack shit. It's just a way to control people, consolidate power, and to make a lot of money. You know, that's all they see it as.
Never let a good crisis go to waste.
Right on. You know.
Well, follow the money.
Yeah,
And,
I mean, this is actually
Jack Gunsky. I wanted to let y'all know. He said that he's going to New Hampshire University of New Hampshire. So
this will be what we're going through today. Will be very relevant. If you didn't tune into the last few episodes, you'll get to see what we had to say about the first parts. But
it says it's a cringe fest.
Yeah, I mean, before we move on, I just want to say, like, I saw this, and this was also in light of things that, like, I didn't know, but it makes a lot of sense now, right? Like, so I knew for a while that you can take any area, regardless of what their policies were, and compare it to a like area, and, like, the OR curve, the deaths per 100,000, like, it hasn't changed, right? So the data just blatantly says that it doesn't seem to matter if you have mask mandates or lockdowns. Then I come to find out that for about 40-something years, we've had studies that basically showed that masks don't do anything when it comes to the spread of what they call 20 nanometer viruses. And one of the things the person said, though, I was just like, this makes a lot of sense for how to prove it, is take a vape device, take a big rip, put on your mask, and exhale. Watch what happens. Shit goes through the mask, shit blows out the sides, it goes behind you, it goes everywhere, right? And the particles for a virus are much smaller than the glycol particles that are coming out of these masks. Or coming out of a vape, right?
Okay.
So
what's the difference
40 years,
between 3 and 0.3?
100 times.
10.
Oh, yeah, 10, sorry.
10.
I'm thinking
10.
0.03.
10 times. What's the probability of something that is 10 times smaller than the thing you're trying to catch it with stopping when you try to catch it?
Well, I mean, I guess you're saying 10%, right?
No. 10 times smaller than the screen. This is putting a screen door on a motherfucking submarine. This is putting up a chain link fence to catch mosquitoes.
Oh yeah, and so no, that's in line with what I was saying. Is we actually have like 4 years worth of studies about how this doesn't work, and they're talking about countries that wear it or whatever, and it was like, well, it might have a nice placebo, but like even in the operating room, the reason that doctors are really wearing masks and stuff is it's not about spreading germs necessarily, right? Like if the doctor is breathing out germs, right? They're gonna do what they're gonna do. Like a lot of them would land on the person. It's actually to capture much larger particles, like if you coughed and you don't want to get some lung butter on an open wound.
Yes, the stuff you breathe out is incredibly toxic. Yes, it's not just CO2. It's all the bacteria from your mouth, where digestion and rotting occurs 24/7. Yes, it is some of the most toxic and dangerous stuff. That's why you see teenagers getting impetigo, and you see kids with bacterial pneumonia. Sorry, bacterial pneumonia. My brain stopped. It is exactly works, Jagunski. Filters and screens are literally the same thing. There is not enough abundance of surface area when it's 0.3 microns wide and you're using a 3 micron substance. And that's just a paper mask. If we look at the 10 to 12 micron distance in a cloth mask, you're trying to catch pebbles with a chain link fence. It just isn't going to work. I know everybody thinks that the moisture is going to really help that much, but when you're using the actual velocity, because you have to remember the force your breath creates to pull things in and out, that does affect the ability for the paper to stop the filtering. And there's also that thin layer of static electricity, which the instant you touch it, that's gone. So then even your 3 micron filter no longer works that way.
And it makes your lungs a more conducive place to grow bacteria.
Well,
yeah. So pneumonia, the risk for pneumonia is higher.
And I'm not dogging on you, brother. I just get frustrated because I've had so many people try to talk to me about this. And when I say and I try to talk about it and I give the information, people just tell me to shut up and they walk away. They won't even listen to it.
The worst part about it is that what you've been saying has been known for about 40 years. Like we had a whole bunch of papers about this. And what happened is at the onset of COVID, a few studies that aren't actually very well done, apparently. This is based on a very world-renowned academic medical doctor named Ivor Cummings. You can look him up. A few shoddy studies came up saying they might work, and then all of a sudden the mask mandates came in, which is suspicious to say the least.
Well, I've got a couple of P95 rated breathers. They're designed to work with either spray painting on working on houses kind of thing, or working with sheetrock, right? And P95 is a step up from N95, right? Because it's rated for solvents. And I've got a full-fledged breather, and that thing. I can tell, that if you're going to wear something, that's probably what you want to wear. But I have a beard, so when I put it on, it should have a flush fit over your face. The only way I'd be able to do that would be to shave and use Vaseline, right? And then that way, I could trust the seal on that thing.
Yeah. I mean, I want to move away from this a little bit. The biggest reason I thought of the biggest reason I thought it up, yeah, well, it's just because it's not really the purpose of the stream, even though it's an interesting topic. Talk about it putting on the green stream. There's a lot of people talking about it. I just thought it was really interesting because I feel like it's the postmodern knowledge principle all over again, right? Where they say nothing can really be objectively known, but the applied postmodernists, they like to borrow the second part where they just say whatever's true is what the people in power say is true. So what they're doing is installing this truth on society that all of this stuff works, and anybody that disagrees is some sort of crazy right-wing science denier when that's so ridiculously far from the case.
You mean
But
apostate?
They most certainly have repeated the lie enough where a lot of people, they just accepted it as true.
Right.
I mean, I have dealt with these people. I've heard them passively make comments because, you know, we'll have discussions like, you know, when are we going to return to the office in some of our team meetings? And in one of the broader team meetings, somebody that puts the only person that puts pronouns in in her name whenever she joins calls was just like, are we going to require people to be vaccinated before we come back to the office? And then they were all just like scared. It was like, I mean, Texas basically said Texas is lifted all restrictions. They're going all suicidal. And guess what's happened since Texas has lifted restrictions?
Not a goddamn thing.
Not a goddamn thing. Like, it's been
Down
exactly
60%. That's what's happened.
Like, they're still doing like as well as they were, if not better. Like, I'm not gonna even like it. They don't have to be better. Things could be a little bit worse than the average, but there's no correlation between the policies being lifted and the trajectory the virus is already going. None whatsoever. It's not even a mild correlation. So I don't know. That's where I'm gonna, you know, stop talking about this. That's all I had to say. It's astonishing to me, and it certainly reminded me a lot of this applied postmodern bullshit. Dead air?
Sorry, I was typing and totally forgot I was muted. I'm so sorry.
I'm like, am I broken?
No,
No, dude, no. It's like I had to say something. Uzi came home a little early from work. She has fucked her knee up in a major kind of way. But she's okay. She's okay. She had it drained, and they drew about a half a cup of liquid.
Oh,
yeah,
baby.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Her knee was swole up too, man. I mean, it was bad.
Sorry, that makes my knee hurt.
Uzi said it hurt like a mother.
I'm sure. Yeah, I've had work on my knee, and oh my god.
Yeah, and and to be honest, I've seen her like fuck her shit up running because she's a runner, and I mean, and get back up and keep going. And if she's complaining about this pain, it's pretty bad. So anyway, enough of personal shit. You know, we're here for the chat because they're awesome. I'm gonna say hey to them real quick before we get going, because I'd like to talk to the chat.
I think we caught most of them.
Hey, shouting at clouds.
Looks like we have Eagle. I have Devin joined in.
Judge Joshua. Mm-hmm.
Shooting at clouds.
Nathan
Mr.
Rita.
Dope Man.
Nathan Rita has been wrenched, and you're a good boy. You keep it. Bad boys lose their wrench, and really bad boys get yeeted off the channel. So that's the only way I play this game. It's you know, everybody's been good. We try to be hippies and shit, and be a mini commune. But we're all out for ourselves. So that's kind of doesn't work. But we can each we can all like each other and have fun, and that's what it's all about. Philip Daniel, greetings, sir. It's good to see you.
Gamer Valine, Grilling Pirate Pete. Gamer
Valine. Hey, I miss Gamer Valine. Madness. One Step Beyond. I can't believe you don't know who that band is, man. They're like the big ska band of the 80s in Britain.
Which one?
They're called Madness.
I know the Madness.
Okay.
Yeah, they're one of the two-tone bands.
Yeah, exactly.
They got really popular because they were a lot more poppy than some of the other ones.
Yes. Well, is this a show about ska esoterica?
I gotta go, guys. If we're gonna do that, I gotta watch.
All right, press 1 in the chat if you want us to go through the Carlin video, and 2 if you just want us to talk about ska music for the next 2 hours.
I only know the glow skulls.
We're gonna fucking troll and press 2. I already know it.
Well, it looks like Jack just wants to argue about masks, but Jack, we got to stay in compliance with the CDC. At least we got to say that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The CDC says that masks everybody should wear masks, and
socially distance.
We are dissenting from that opinion. So
you're dissenting from it. I'm not stating anything positive or negative. You have to guess how I think about it.
I'm doing it on your stream. Yeah, well, so apparently that is YouTube's official policy, is what people that have contacted me are.
Go man says 3. Neither.
You can talk about alternative recommendations for how to handle the virus. However, you have to first give the CDC's official opinion, and then make it clear that you're dissenting. And apparently that doesn't always work, but that's the guidance that people have been given when they want to talk about it.
Gotcha.
Yes, the Mighty Boss Jones are considered a ska band.
They're definitely a ska band. Right. And I'm putting this in the RAM. Video RAM. Did I have VLC up? Yeah, I got it up. Okay.
If only I wasn't so old that I remember I type better on a mechanical keyboard, I would be way more useful in this conversation.
Yeah, I'm gonna give a Tim of the floor real quick before we start the video to give kind of a recap about what we're watching.
Okay, so what we're watching is a ginger who thinks she's really self-important, but all she is a dumb rich white girl who's never bothered to look outside of her friend circle and try to meet new people, and it's turned her into an idiot, and she seems to think that makes her a racist, and I think it just is she's slightly retarded. We don't really know what the subject of the actual lecture is on the 4 steps to begin an anti-racist whatever, but we do know that she really has no idea how people that don't look the same as her or live in her area think. She's a very smart person, as James Lindsay would call them.
Damn, very smart people.
You know what Zappa called them? Zappa called them overeducated shitheads.
Yes, he did.
So I always stick with Frank Zappa. The bass to the bass. Yeah, so
my best friend in high school was his godson.
Don't you think we should accept her at face value when she tells us she's a racist?
I don't think she's smart enough to know what a racist is.
Well, I think that. All right, here's the deal. All right, with people like her, I think that growing up and not experiencing other ethnicities, and not necessarily an abundance, but just exposure to any as a child and as a young adult, right? If you're not exposed to it and you just see it on TV and stuff, you have probably have misconceptions, right, based on stereotypes. All right, and some people, I think that what this is her guilt over what she's felt and thought inside of her own soul and heart about black people, that she's made it her she's made it her mission to prove the exact opposite, to go to any length to prove how opposite that is. That's kind of a Jungian dichotomous not reaction formation. What's it called? Dissonance, cognitive dissonance. When and I think that's what's going on with her. I really do. I'm hearing nobody.
I mean, this is a typical bourgeois liberal take. Whenever you can almost guarantee that anytime you see a bourgeois liberal pushing this nonsense, that they probably come from some background like her, right? Where they didn't grow up like, I grew up in a a lower middle class neighborhood where there were plenty of black Mexicans, whatever, right? Like, yeah, I mean, it was a white majority, but not by much. Like, you're talking like 50%. Like, there was, I've always grown up around people of other races and stuff. It was never an issue for me. Like, I learned from a young age to take because I grew up in the 90s, man, 90s kids. We actually learned to be colorblind racist. And
that's where Wiggers evolved.
Forward.
Yes, Wiggers emerged from the 90s. Where you had people like Tom Pease walking around going, yo, man, what up?
Yeah, exactly. Even though, I'm not sure if he's white still. He's mostly Italian, so it's one of those things. Like, they go back and forth on whether it's
he's white from the waist down.
I think it's kind of like what they do with Jews, and this is like a real thing. So there's all sorts of
orange juice
articles in the juice.
Oh, you're talking about O.J. Simpson?
There
Okay.
Justice articles about how the Jewish people in America have actually reached the pinnacle of whiteness, and therefore they're guilty of white supremacy. And then at the same time, anytime there's any kind of anti-Semitism, they also jump in and be like, "That is also."
Yeah, but they're the descendants of slaves.
Exactly. It's kind of whatever's convenient for the narrative as to whether or not Jewish people are white or they're Jewish in the social justice realm. Honestly, if you were going to ask if they even give you convoluted answers themselves, because a lot of social justice scholars just happen to be Jewish scholars, and they'll say, well, like, from the standpoint of I live in this society, then I do benefit from some privilege for being effectively white, but at the same time, I also have this historic oppression, so it depends on the context. Like, even Jewish scholars that buy into this will give you some convoluted answer.
Well, but here,
status in the social justice hierarchy.
All right, here's the long mind blower here. Okay, so if they was kings and shit, and the Egyptians were most definitely black people, they enslaved the Hebrews. Okay, for 2,000 years, right? What, 400 years ain't nothing compared to 2,000. First of all. So if reparations is owed by anyone to anybody, I would posit that maybe it needs to just go straight to the Hebrews.
Okay, so what about the Slavs?
Yeah, fuck them. The Romans were white, so it was white on white. That's white on white crime. It don't count.
Yeah, because, Serbians and Black Russians look so much like white people.
Mm.
Sorry. So I've just, we have entire European sections of Europe that are called Slavic nations, and the Slavs were literally referred to as the slave nations. So I don't think the slave thing is really as racially based as they think it is.
No,
I think this is just a bunch of idiots that want to feel special.
Well, I mean, we went through an entire hundreds and hundreds of years of human history where we had class-based systems where there was no difference in ethnic origin, but you essentially had the serf class.
You were cased, yeah.
They may as well have been slaves. I'm not saying they were exactly the same, but it's, their status was so low, right? Where if they were the victim of some crime from, if you claim that some royal did something terrible to you, they'd be like, so you have no rights.
Yeah.
Also, you don't own anything that you actually own, and we can come take it whenever we want. So,
well,
you don't own your land, you don't own your property.
Yeah. Well,
you have no rights.
At least the French were smart enough to storm the Bastille.
Well, I was going to say Dane law derives from Danes, Vikings at the time. I think they were pre-Viking, actually, coming across the Moors, experiencing Hammurabi's code and going, wait a minute, this doesn't fucking work, and that's the origin of Dane law. It was a direct rejection of eye for an eye.
It was a better mousetrap. Indeed. All right, let's do this Carlin thing.
Oh,
I think we're making the chat restless, and everybody's arguing with each other. I love it. We've sown discord.
I think that's where people really join our streams, is so that we can bring up a topic that the chat decides to debate each other on.
Well,
I don't know what the fuck you guys are talking about, but this chat is awesome.
They are, man. Yeah, we got a good chat. Indeed.
Yeah. We have some pretty intelligent people in there, man.
Indeed. We're rolling around with the wrinkled brains. All right, so let's go ahead and get going on this Carlin thing. So it'll take us a minute to get our wheels back up, but it's like 2 minutes before we get to where we were.
Yeah, maybe we try increasing the play.
We started this several years ago. I'm a very type A person, and I like checking off lists. So for me, when I started out, I committed to reading 2 books a month that were either by Black scholars or were about the history of race and racism in this country, or were about critical theory. I have a lineup every single week of 5 podcasts that I listen to that specifically address social justice and issues of race and racism. I listen to them every week. And then I try to commit to reading an article, at least one article every single day, that is about social justice or racial equity. These are very tangible
I am constantly doing the work to keep myself brainwashed.
Steps
Ironically,
that I
do
take
about the
to
same
school
thing.
myself every single day.
It's almost like she's talking about reading the Bible, a Christian reading the Bible.
Except for that a Christian actually spends less time focusing on their religion on average than that.
Yeah.
To make sure that I am engaged continuously in this work. And maybe that works for you, maybe it doesn't. By the way, after this webinar, you'll get a list of resources that I've put together that have recommendations for podcasts and documentaries and things that you can watch to get started. But for me, that was a really great way to fold it into my life, right? Because I think a lot of people get so overwhelmed by what they don't know that they don't know how to take on the self-study in a sustainable way. And you're not going to learn the history of race and racism in the next 3 months. You're just not.
It is a lifelong process. Doing the work is a lifelong process of self-flagellation.
I don't know it. I don't think you'll ever learn the full depths and complications of the history of race and racism. But that means you still need to be diving in and trying. And so I think that for many people, the inclination is to kind of gorge themselves on sources and get so overwhelmed that, like I said, they burn out and they stop. So figure out how to school yourself sustainably. Figure out how to fold the reading and watching and listening into your everyday life. Make it as important as any other habit or self-care practice that you would make time for.
Oh my God, she just equated being an anti-racist to doing self-care work, when at the very beginning of the webinar she was like, this is gonna burn you out, you have to take breaks, and white people have the benefit of being able to take breaks, but black and brown people don't.
That's how you engage long-term. So the 4 S's. Show up physically, mentally, emotionally. Shut up and listen. Decenter your white voice. Support, financial, emotional, and mental. And school yourself. Do the work.
Yeah, so
if you go off and read White Fragility, watch.
She forgot the 5th S, which is suck that cock. All right, go, keep going.
Well, so the first S is the problem, is that these people show up. They are trained to show up. They know to show up.
Well, I mean, if your job says you got to do this shit, you know, I mean, what are you going to do?
Or like your religion says you have to do this shit, right? They show up to city council meetings, any kind of campus hearing. They show up to that the same way that devout Christians show up to church.
Right.
That is literally that is their church.
Mm-hmm.
And they make sure that their voices are heard, and they make sure that they run it, they take over it, and force their will upon everybody else in their sphere. All the other stuff is just stupid, basic social justice shit, which is shut up and listen, which means if you're white, your opinion doesn't count if somebody else has somebody of color or a marginalized group has an opinion.
Mm-hmm.
You can go on.
You can roll.
13th, the documentary, and listen to a few podcasts. Your work is not done.
It is not enough to read White Fragility. You have to flagellate yourself every day for the rest of your life to make up for your inherent racism.
I really want to emphasize that. This is a lifetime commitment. Also, this is just my own caveat. If you do buy White Fragility, and I think it's a great book, I think it offers a very profound framework, make sure that you also are reading the books by scholars of color about racism.
She just blatantly, indirectly acknowledged that Robin DiAngelo has made a lot of money as a white lady teaching white people that they're racist, and she's like, don't just buy the book by the white lady, buy the book by Ibram Kendi as well.
Send you a whole list of recommendations, but the irony is not lost on me that the #1 New York Times bestseller about racism in this country right now is written by a white woman. No shade again, but think about the optics of that.
A
That's
racist
if you
white woman.
If you ignore To Kill a Mockingbird.
So I have received a few
conclusion.
great questions.
If you ignore books like To Kill a Mockingbird, then you get to that conclusion. But if you want to know what the most prolific book about racism ever written is, it's To Kill a Mockingbird.
Mm.
That's because these people don't actually know what racism is, though. Sorry, my bad.
Well, and stuff like, all right, so I'm
on their cancel list.
Well, Blade Runner's about racism. I mean, you know, it's all a metaphor. It's a very sophisticated shit. And that's what gets me with this stuff, is that this expects everybody to be morons who can't think for themselves. So we're going to think for you. And we're going to tell you what to think, how to think. And if you don't think like we think, you're wrong and you're bad and you're a racist.
Well, what Tim has said is something that I think is really worth pointing out, is that To Kill a Mockingbird To Kill a Mockingbird is one of the books that they're trying to get removed from, K through 12 studies, along with like any book written by Mark Twain. There's a good reason for it, because the lessons in those books, and when I say good reasons from their worldview, the lessons from those books, they come from the common humanity politics perspective, right? They come from the liberal perspective. And I say this again, I say this every time I use that word on stream. Anytime we use the word liberal on the stream, we're not referring to the colloquial liberal being leftist. We're referring to liberal being the ideas that descended from the Enlightenment. And wokeness it's completely opposed to liberalism.
Right, the root word of liberal is liberty.
Yeah, it's explicitly opposed to liberalism. So the reason you can read those books and find those books to be probably some of the most profound books ever written, to tell people like, look, you can't just judge a book by its cover, right? You can't just judge people by the color of their skin. And we have classic examples like To Kill a Mockingbird or Huck Finn, right? They hate that lesson. They don't like that lesson at all, and it needs stricken from history, because they don't want people learning that, because then they become colorblind racist, as if it's a bad thing.
Crazy. Just crazy.
Well, sorry, I was swallowing. I just thought I'd point out the obvious, because even Carlin is ignoring the obvious there, that actually Robin DiAngelo isn't as popular as actual books about racism. This is pretend racism and pretend books, or books about pretend racism. Yeah. This isn't the real deal, y'all. And I thought I would just point out what you actually do know about racism and what they're trying to say you don't know about racism. I did it a bit sideways, so I apologize for not being so direct.
Right, and see, what I see is that what you're just describing as racism is what's internalized in all these people. And what's coming out is a sick response to it. At the best description I can come up with. So, all right, that's my wrinkle brain take on all this shit forever. All right. So I'm going to keep rolling. But yeah, that's exactly how I feel.
And she probably thinks it's like racism that led to Robin DiAngelo's book being #1, and she's actually probably right in that regard. It is. Why wasn't How to Be an Anti-Racist the #1 book? Why was it White Fragility? That's racist!
And I know that in the Q&A, in the chat box, Jen has been collecting them as well. So I'm going to answer 2 of them because I think they're really good overarching questions that probably a lot of folks have.
Okay, we have now spent 40 minutes. She's given us no information. No practical steps. All she said is show up, shut up and listen, give black people money, and read books. But she hasn't talked about like anything, any like there's been no research, there's been no studies, there's been no empirical evidence to back up any claims. There's nothing. It's shut up, give black people money, read the books we tell you to read. That's it. There's no specifics, and this is what it's like in every single one of these trainings. These people make thousands of dollars. I don't know what she made, but like in general terms, these people make thousands of dollars doing these trainings that don't say anything.
And then, Jen, if it's okay with you, we can open it up to any others that come in. So please do type them in. So the first one that I got is...
Data is white. Data is racist. Empirical evidence, racist.
It feels as if anything I say or do is a reflection of white supremacy. Short of withdrawing from society altogether, how can I and others engage in a meaningful and constructive way to change the systemic wrongs?
Okay. That question was definitely planted. I need to listen to that question again. Hang on.
2 of them because I think they're really good overarching questions that probably a lot of folks have. And then, Jen, if it's okay with you, we can open it up to any others that come in. So please do type them in. So the first one that I got is, it feels as if anything I say or do is a reflection of white supremacy. Short of withdrawing from society altogether, how can I and others engage in a meaningful and constructive way to change the systemic wrongs?
No one asked that question. That's planted.
I don't believe it either.
Right. This is everything we talked about, right? The feelings right now are, for many of us who are...
You're having feelings. And you might want to withdraw because of those feelings. Those feelings might make you feel bad. And that's why you need to keep getting up every single day and doing the work. The High Priestess of Anti-Racism. Thank you, Carl.
Well, why do you have to hate yourself?
They're so painful that our inclination is to like withdraw from society altogether. That is a natural response. It is also a response that you need to push through. So you need to fight that off and double down on your level of engagement. You're going to mess up. You have to be okay with that. And that's painful, right? Because I think if you've just woken up to an understanding of racism in this country, you are crippled by the anxiety that you would unintentionally do harm again. And it keeps us from speaking out.
I'm not crippled by anything. Beat that cognitive dissonance down. Beat it down. Do it. Do it.
In there, in what she just said, there's a lot of truth actually. They're taking advantage.
You are going to mess up.
Emotions.
I mess up all the time. I have messed up constantly. I'm going to continue to mess up. That's part of it. That's part of me.
I behave racist towards my colleagues. Robin DiAngelo writes about this in her book. Like, my colleagues forgive me for my acts of racism against them all the time.
No,
and I will always
don't.
make mistakes because I am socialized to be racist because I was born white and I make mistakes all the time.
Hey, Dark Star Mobile donates $20 and says, hey, Irate, I'm just voluntarily redistributing some of my wealth to you. I got to check into your streams more often, brother, man. And
wow,
I concur. Thanks, man.
In
fact, do racist things to my colleagues all the time.
$20.
And yet people still pay me thousands of dollars to teach them how not to be racist.
Me being a white person in this society.
But they don't really forgive you.
You
bitch.
have to reckon with that. And it's not okay, right? Like, it's not okay that you're messing up, but it's still going to happen. So how do you contend with that? When you realize you've messed up,
Like,
because some people are a glutton for punishment. That's how.
What?
How do
yeah,
you take
let's
that
pause real quick.
knowledge, educate yourself, and then come back and do better again and again and again?
All right.
It's really hard. It's really, really, really hard. But it's something that you have to contend with, and it's something that you have to, it's a muscle that you have to flex, right?
Am I talking?
Be okay with saying I don't
hear
know,
you.
too. There is
Hello? What?
All right, yeah, I just wanted to say.
I'm sorry, man.
Pause real quick, because what she's talking about, like, she's trying to say, how do you juxtapose with the fact that you've messed up and you've just realized you're messing up, and you're always going to mess up. Like, you're never going to stop messing up. And that goes back to, it's an impossible standard that you just always have to subjugate yourself to. That you're always going to be a racist, and you just have to deal with it.
Okay.
That's like, you
there's
know what I call that?
There's no finish line. What I'm saying is, like, even in their framework, there's no finish line for a white person that decides that they're going to be anti-racist.
What's more bourgeois than being fucking self-loathing, man? You know what I'm saying? Self-loathing is a pretty bourgeois thing. $2, Mr. Scott donates, says, I bet she won't need Walter E. Williams, Thomas Sowell, or Malcolm X criticism of liberals. Do you think?
Oh, there's a shit
I agree.
now, right? There's like Colin Hughes, Glenn Lowry, what's that? Fuck.
Look, apparently, yes, there's actually African Americans that can think for themselves. Oh my God.
Yeah, and we're not surprised. We're actually less
I'm not.
surprised that they refuse to address it, or they're surprised. I am not surprised. Like, I'm actually more surprised that there's not more of them.
Well, what's more flippant than a white person telling a black person that what they're telling them is not their experience, right? Yeah. Thomas Sowell tells me his experience and his thoughts about racism. I tell him he's wrong because, you know, he's just wrong because he's an Uncle Tom that's sucking into the white mindset.
And occasionally they say the quiet part out loud. Nicole Hannah-Jones has a infamous tweet that she ended up deleting, where she said there's a difference between, excuse me, being black and being politically black.
Yes. Sean King.
Fucking what was that bitch's name? Rachel Dolezal.
Rachel Dolezal.
Yeah.
Complaining how she can't get a job these days because poor me.
It's because you pretended you were black for 6 years.
It could be that everybody thinks you're just a crazy lying bitch and nobody wants to take that liability on their business.
Man, she's from up there, isn't she?
Well, dude, people were questioning her and she goes, I don't know what you mean. She looked like that lawyer bitch for Twitter that Tim Poulter.
I forgot. You know what? I forgot. Back at Jesus. That Tema.
She's so much nicer than me.
No, it's just like I thought I saw her out there. Anyway,
she was.
I don't know, man. You know, it just it's getting weird.
It's getting really weird. Like, I don't even know if weird is the right word. Like, psychotic doesn't seem like a strong enough statement. It just doesn't seem like the word doesn't quite fully encapsulate the level of crazy we're dealing with. And I can't figure out the word, like, how do you combine psychotic, neurotic, and narcissistic into one word? And I guess you just call it critical race. You call it CRT.
Or call I've never cluster seen B, depending on who you are.
Yeah. Or
right?
Zyklon B, I guess. I don't know.
Well, no, it's a cluster B personality trait combination. Plus a comorbidity or a psychological comorbidity.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. Malignant narcissism. You know, it's a terrible thing to waste.
I don't even know. Malignant narcissism. That was probably. Oh, this woman is crazy and she's dangerous at that. So I don't even know how to respond.
She would say you're the dangerous one. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know, because I'm mixed race and I don't play the game.
Right. Exactly. But just remember, Rachel Dolezal is trans black. right? And I can say I'm trans mechanical,
There you go.
I'm a cyborg. I've got titanium hips and a metallic heart valve.
Oh, there you go. You just upgraded.
Full plastic, Yeah, no shit. Now I need I really want the chip, Mr. Elon Musk. I want that thing in my head. I'm going to see what that's like. Because I'm just like that.
Okay, I got lost. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
What we're seeing is that in about...
We were talking about narcissism, and I got narcissistic, started talking about myself. So that's kind of, yeah.
In a decade, irate prostate is basically going to be walking around like he's the fucking Terminator or some shit.
Giving your clothes with your motorcycle.
Cybernetic parts. Even your brain is now just uploaded to a supercomputer.
And I am one with the singularity.
Wait, does that mean that Skynet is real?
Not yet. It's going to be real, though. You said I kind of...
You know what? I'm fine with Skynet as long as it's smart enough to realize that this social justice bullshit is nonsense.
Dude, I hope to God. All right. So if you're in the future and you're listening to this right now and you are laughing at the ridiculousness of this shit, you get it, dude. And thank God shit changed. I'm just saying.
You're going to be like, oh, there were people that weren't total fucking idiots back in 2021.
The majority of people aren't. The problem is the media and the internet keeps propping up the crazy people and pretending they're the majority.
It's really the media, man. I mean, they're the ones that are really, keeping the narrative straight, and keeping it unified.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say that they have as much power, if not more power, than politicians.
Yeah, like
obviously.
I just want to speak. Timmy, you say most people aren't like this. That is 100% true. Here, the issue is that a very large percentage of people don't really know what this is or whatever, and they just kind of defer to it. Like they're just like, oh yeah, I've been told that. That sounds reasonable. I was like, what are you talking about? I hear that systemic racism is fucking everywhere every day. Like, why? How can you deny that? It's just something they're deferential to it. Which is equally as dangerous. I mean, really, when we talk about this, or people like even like bigger influencers than us, right? Like Dr. Karlin Poroshenko or James Lindsay, the people they're trying to reach out to are not the actual woke and trying to change their mind. It's all the people that have just come to accept this as some sort of truth. Like, oh well, I mean, apparently they're very smart people, so we should pay attention to them.
They're smart. They went to Harvard. It's like, if you could have an IQ of 3 and make it into Harvard if you click the right boxes.
Yeah. So, but I'm saying, like, what they're doing is explaining to the rest of the people is like, you keep hearing this over and over again. You don't understand it. You kind of buy into it, and then they're telling you why it's bullshit. Like, those are the people they're trying to get. Or like, we're trying to get at, and all the other people that are anti-wokes are trying to get at.
Well, I can tell you that the response I had on Friday when I was challenged at the store about my gypsy face veil, because some of these people are retarded and they get really offended when you aren't complying the way they want you to. When you start offering these people information, the ones that have been brainwashed will act like one of the Church of Nazarene or the International Church of Christ zealots in the late 90s, early 2000s. Yep. It's literally the same group of people. They're pushing around the same 8 to 10% of the population and putting them in panic state after panic state after panic state and pretending those are the majority. It's a big game of pretend, and we really need to start calling people on it, because as soon as you speak up loudly, a whole lot of other people relax and get more comfortable standing up for themselves in the situation as well.
Exactly. And that's actually true with everything. And it goes back to what I said about how I know it's not a majority of people that buy into this worldview, or it's not a majority of people that necessarily believe that this lockdown and mask stuff is true. But the loudest people are the true believers. And their weapon against anybody that opposes them is to castigate them. and keep their voices down, right? Dampen it. So, I mean, you're absolutely right. And there's a lot of cost to going against, especially the institutional powers that be. But the more people that do, and they speak up loudly, the more comfortable other people are going to get trying to do so. And that's how we get past this. So you're 100% right there, Tema.
As somebody who's had to live with an addict for most of my life and have, other people in the house that never said anything about the horrible shit the addict did, I've gotten used to taking heat and realizing that other people will step up as soon as they realize they are not alone. They just need a little spark of courage to get themselves running. For the most part, if you keep it on a daily one-on-one interaction, you will get past it and you will get through it and you will be the one that succeeds. That's just how it works. That's human nature. They can try to do all this shit, it's not going to work. It's just not. It's against human nature.
All right, y'all ready?
Yep.
A lot that you're not going to know. And I think that a lot of white people get kind of paralyzed by that. Or I've certainly found when I want to confront racism, sometimes my inclination is like, oh, if I don't have like the FBI statistics at hand to engage in this conversation, then I shouldn't engage in it at all.
If I don't have data to support my racism, then I just shouldn't do it at all. We don't need data. Data is racist.
And that's not the case, right? To interrupt racism, you don't have to you don't have to be an expert to interrupt racism. In fact, it's more important than ever that you interrupt racism even if you're not quite sure what it is that's wrong about it. If something is landing wrong with you, there's a sign it is probably wrong.
You guys want to hear a hot take on the Aztecs being wiped out by the Spaniards? I think it was karma because the Aztec themselves wiped out like 6 or 7 different tribes in the general area of the Aztec Empire.
That's amazing they're actually touching that subject because they've stayed so far away from what Spain did when it comes
it's La Raza. No, it's La Raza. It's La Raza.
Well, no. I realize that, but like what Spain did during like the same colonization period that they look at North America, the same issues with slavery, like multiply that by 100 when it comes to what the Spaniards did in South America. Like the only difference is the narrative doesn't work out too well because South American countries kind of suck. Not all of them, but like there's a lot of problems there.
Yeah, it was. Spain wrecked Central and South America. Oh, Lord. Yeah. No, I don't even know how to describe that shit. Uh-oh. It says they're saying you're muted, brother.
They're saying I'm muted.
Yeah.
Oh, well. All right, so, yeah, Shouting at Clouds, if y'all didn't hear that, we were talking about an article that he put in the DMs, and it was talking about accepting what's known as a counter-genocide, which is part of the this pro-Aztec curriculum into the education system in California.
I will have a very not rational response if one of these motherfuckers actually comes after my son while he's down there at school.
Right?
Yeah.
Y'all ready?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So if that's a kind of sketchy comment that your colleague says, speak up. And it's okay to say, I don't know.
This woman in any normal work environment would be calling out her colleagues for racism left and right, and she probably wouldn't actually contribute very much to the workplace because she's given us nothing to indicate that she would have 40 minutes into the presentation. And hopefully, if she worked in any normal environment, she would be fired immediately for acting like a Karen.
It's okay to say, I don't know why that didn't land right, but I'm not understanding your intentionality behind that. Can you explain it to me? More than ever, it is on us to interrupt racism when we see it in both covert and overt forms. And
people who like call call other people out for being racist, I'm sorry. Like, I have no sympathy for anything that happens to them when they're like, excuse me, do you know that you were just racist in that interaction? I have no sympathy for these people at all if anything negative happens to them when they're being a dick.
We do not have to be experts to do that. We just have to be committed. I think another thing that's really important is just normalizing conversations around race and racism. You know,
Don't they make it so appealing to do this anti-racist work too? They're like, shut up, listen, show up, be uncomfortable. Doesn't make it so appealing for you to want to like come in and better yourself? This is not how people who are doing real personal development work act. Right? They're not like, shut up and listen to us. Like, I've actually been, I've been watching for people who just joined. I was talking about Benjamin Boyce's documentary on Evergreen State College. And I don't know how that one, Jamil, I think was his name, that one kid that was like in charge, he treated everyone like dirt. I don't know why people followed him and listened to him, because he was he was kind of like a rat bastard. And, you know, I attribute it to the fact that like he's in college, like that's the time to kind of be one of those people. But if I was going to school with that kid, I would be like, you're being kind of a dick. Like, why should I listen to you and follow you? Guys, if you're enjoying this live stream, please remember to smash that like button. Thank you.
It still feels very uncomfortable for most people in this country to talk about. Not for me. I mean, my husband sometimes is like, we have to talk about something else. Like,
oh my God, she's married? That thing has a husband?
And what y'all don't remember is that Carlin is drinking during this thing. She was imbibing in some of her husband's,
she took her husband's last beer.
heavy gravity alcohol. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of put that context on it, because you can tell she's getting a little lit, man. Yeah.
She's married?
Yeah. That poor motherfucker, he fucked up.
Oh boy, that's an understatement.
Dude, there's no way he could have known that's who she was before he married her.
They probably have an open relationship, which is only one way, where she can fuck as many black dudes on the side.
Or he could be a preacher. It could be a preacher's couple, actually. You know, some of the more liberal religions.
Oh yeah, one of those weird Episcopalian groups.
Exactly, or Methodist. Yeah. Some of them churches are like, anything goes. Fine with me, man. You know, it's like whatever. Yeah, I'm not gonna shit on your parade. Just don't shit on mine, motherfucker.
I will. I'm a judgy ass bitch. No, I'm just kidding. I don't really.
Right on. All right, I'll keep going. Sorry.
my husband. She just admitted that her husband doesn't want to take it anymore. Oh God, how many years do we give her marriage? I don't give her very many.
You've been talking about it all day. But I think that the only way that you can begin to grapple with these concepts is by talking it out.
Dude, if her husband ever sees this live stream, dude, get in touch with me. I will buy you a beer. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry you ended up in this position. I'm sure she was normal when you married her, but she is now a pod person, and you're going to need to go through a process of coming to grips with that. It's not all hope is not lost. She can wake up, but like reach out. I will buy you a beer. We'll have a conversation. I won't tell her. I won't put it on the internet. But if you ever find this video, just know that we're there for you, and you're fine, and we love you just like you are, and we won't make you confess your racism.
As far as I know, there's actually no way of reversing pod person status. Once you get there, there's no going back.
Yeah, you just gotta we gotta set them on fire.
You just gotta wait for the comet to pass over the moon, and they take the cyanide pill.
I don't know. I kind of think, yeah, there is a way to fix it. I just don't.
I believe certain circumstances it can probably be like deprogrammed, right? Because there's definitely a cult aspect to this mindset.
Maybe,
you know,
I don't know.
But
I'm skeptical.
but the true believers, man, this is like Nazism. I mean, these people are like fucking, you know, Hitler Youth, Waffen SS shit. I mean, that's that level, you know. So, and that's terrifying.
Like the useful idiots we can get to, but the true believers, I don't think there's any. Like that.
Well, there's a solution, but do we want to talk about it? Question.
Yeah, I mean, I do like the idea of helicopters, but it's probably not going to pass.
But we become them when that happens.
I don't know.
You know what I'm saying?
We don't become them. We don't become them because our solution is far more rational and succinct. We don't have to dwell on it for very long after we deal with the situation. There's not a lot of fallout. There's just like, you know, some urns to be distributed or a few headstones to be carved.
Right.
It's
because it's
when everything's gonna burn anyway, fighting fire with fire is actually not a bad idea.
I'm sorry.
This is an interesting discussion here.
I got kids, man. I look at it totally different. For me, it's all cost-benefit analysis and how it benefits my ego in terms of my children. So
it's all of a sudden it's a utilitarian approach that you normally wouldn't apply.
Yep. I just don't. I got bigger fish to fry, and you ain't part of it.
Interesting.
By the way, just disclaimer: we're totally joking about the helicopter jokes. All right.
Right.
Even if we're not, we are
totally joking.
We mean it in Minecraft.
In Minecraft.
Yep. So
I was trying to find creative ways to say what my response would be, but it's very difficult to create a euphemism for that.
Remember, I'm smooth brain too, so it's got to look like a hammer. It ain't gonna make no sense to me. You know what I'm saying? All right,
Yeah, I totally understand.
Here we go.
Certainly, you're not going to work through understandings of white supremacy in a vacuum. So find people that you can talk it out with. Normalize conversations with your family members, with your friends, with colleagues.
Her husband is 100% white. 100%. There is no way she's not married to a white guy.
The more and more we treat race as something that we can't talk about, the less we are able to show up and actually interrupt racism as anti-racist. So normalize those conversations. So that actually brings me to my second point, which is, my second question. So I got the question, I teach kindergarten in a mostly white community. I'm not sure where to start this conversation.
What?
So, what I think the person
Wait.
is...
Hang on. We were making a sex joke, but we actually have to take this question
we are
seriously.
able to show up and actually interrupt racism as anti-racist. So normalize those conversations. So that actually brings me to my second point, which is, my second question. So I got the question, I teach kindergarten in a mostly white community. I'm not sure where to start this conversation.
You do not have conversations with kindergarteners about racism.
Period.
The correct answer is you don't have conversation with kindergarteners teaching them that they are racist. That is the correct answer.
So, what I think the person is saying here is essentially like...
What?
Oh no, this actually happens all across the country now. They're teaching very young kids. They're segregating them out, having kids apologize for their race and gender.
Teaching them, trans shit.
It's one of the things where, like, I think this is another staged question because one part of critical theory research is critical pedagogy, which is how do we basically brainwash the next generation in order to buy into this bullshit wholeheartedly?
Right. Hitler Youth. You know?
All it's done is make my daughter avoid other white people.
Yeah, you live in Oregon, so I'm sure I already know that your daughter's got enough, even though she's homeschooled, she gets enough of this shit already.
Well, you know, and it's like I thought I lived in the place where the dumbest motherfuckers live.
No.
You know, it's like they're everywhere, and it's okay. You know, they're not necessarily deplorable. I wouldn't say.
Well, what they're doing is they're taking otherwise reasonably people and instilling a religion in them.
Yeah, it really is a mental virus,
like
a thought virus.
Yeah, like the Parasitic Mind by Gad Sad is a very good book to explore for this issue. But like quite simply, it is actually really easy for very intelligent people to bypass their rational circuit board and their intellectual capabilities once you instill them within a religious doctrine, because humans are actually very susceptible to that.
Right.
I would actually even go as far to say, look at cult leaders or like just famous names in the past, right?
Mm-hmm.
The guy from Waco, right?
David Koresh.
David Koresh was probably really intelligent, right? Charles Manson was really intelligent.
No, David Koresh was very intelligent. That's one of the things that they talk about a lot, is the guy was incredibly clever.
Yeah, I mean, I said probably.
He taught us how to play guitar.
I only say that because I don't actually know how intelligent he was, but
it was actually good.
The stories I told, it sounds like a smart guy. Whether or not he really believed what he believed is different, but there were probably a lot of smart people that followed him too. Because once you get
I can't justify fucking a 13-year-old child. So it's just
that was called as bullshit. The 13-year-old came out and said that never happened. She was forced by the FBI to say that.
I don't want to get into a Waco talk. That's
you know what I'm saying? Yeah, but there's a lot of right.
It's so hard to figure out what actually fucking happened.
The point I'm trying to make is that really smart people can act really fucking dumb whenever they get instilled with an ideology, because we are super prone to bypassing all of our ability to reason in the sake of an ideology we've been instilled with, right? There is certain software you can put on very smart people to make them not seem so very smart. And I meant very smart in the literal way there, not the James Lindsay way.
All right, we'll keep going to the video.
How do I teach anti-racism to kids?
No! Oh my god! Okay. Let's just come to grips with the fact that a webinar on the University of New Hampshire's website is about to talk about teaching anti-racism to 5-year-olds. Kristen Nuno, you hear that? 5-year-olds. Jenny's getting inky with it. Says, I'm 7 minutes behind. The reason you can't ask blacks about it is because white people don't make money off it. They throw a bone just to look legit. All right.
I think that's how I'm going to answer it. So if that was not your intention, please write it in the.
Her answer had been, dude, I am so glad we're watching this webinar, because this is like a treasure. This is a treasure trove of what should not be happening in New Hampshire, and why it is so important that HB 544 actually passes. Thank you, University of New Hampshire, for this wondrous gift that you've given us.
Questions. So again, normalize conversations about race and racism. I'm sure many of you have
normalize conversations about race and racism with 5-year-olds.
Have had the experience or remember an experience where, let's just say, I'll use myself as an example. I was in a grocery store when I was like 5 years old, and I still remember saying to my mom, that woman's black. And my mother, how do you think she responded? Was like, shh, don't say that, that's rude. shut down a conversation about race and racism.
Your mom is
And
as
that was not-
retarded as you are. I'm not surprised.
That's not a conversation about race and racism. That's an observation that that a 5-year-old might make if they're not used to seeing black people.
That was not coming out of mean-spiritedness. It certainly wasn't coming out of her awareness of her own racist worldview. She was raised in a time where it was considered rude to talk about race and racism. But if you inculcate your kids in that kind of mindset, they are never going to feel comfortable asking questions. They're never going to feel comfortable bringing up things that they see because they're taught it's not something to talk about. I'm speaking to white kids here.
No, you're speaking about your shitty parents and nobody else's. Because
only white kids are allowed to ask questions about race.
And they ask those kind of questions. You know what my kids would get as an answer about, yes, that person is different. Don't they look interesting in this way, that way, or something else? And we would find a positive thing to point out about the person that they had just noticed was different than them. Because I'm not a fucking retard. And this girl, dude, the chromosomes from her mom and pa create retards, and they name them stupid ginger bitch. I don't even know.
I smell a rich kid here.
I smell a dumb rich kid whose
exactly.
mom is a trophy wife.
Yeah.
Sorry. I smell Sean Connery's wife. Oh my God, are you fucking
I
serious?
smell Sean Connery's wife. That sounds like an album. Like a punk album. I smell Sean Connery's wife. Anyway.
Oh my God, Joe.
Lilia Carlin's.
Black kids are not allowed to ask questions about race. Brown kids are not allowed to ask questions about race. That's what you just said, right? This is only advice for white kids, not for any other race.
So normalize these conversations. Normalize conversations around inequity, the history of this country. You can talk about these things without necessarily, I don't know, I don't want to say traumatizing your kids, but there are ways to talk to 5-year-olds about systemic inequities that are age appropriate, but also not shying away from the challenges of those conversations, right? Kids are smart. They know these things,
She's promoting talking about racism to 5-year-olds. She's promoting teaching anti-racism to 5-year-olds. Let's just take a second just to wrap our heads around that. And this is completely normal to these people. This is completely normal. Like, she has no gumption about doing this. She's not like, you know what, maybe 5 is a time where they should be learning other stuff. No, racism. That's what we need to teach them. TPS says, my 6-year-old daughter got called racist by her black BFF. Didn't understand the word and stayed with friends with help from teachers. Thanks God for that. For Texas, handled correctly. Yes.
They can sense these things. They're smart. They can take these things in. And the more you normalize these kind of conversations and are able to say, I don't know about the stuff you don't know about, you are giving your kids the critical thinking skills to begin to think about these things for themselves. Another thing is talk about a side of history that your children might not be exposed to. One of the things that I heard time and time again in the class that I taught teaching race is how angry my white students were that they hadn't been taught this in their K-12 experience. I swear to God,
No, I don't believe her. I do not believe that any K-12 student was like, I'm really pissed that you didn't teach me how to be an anti-racist.
We spent the first half of the semester with the students, their reaction papers were them just being like, how did no one teach me this?
She is lying. I don't believe her for one red second. I want receipts. I want evidence.
And that's because we still have a very white.
Dude, I'm gonna tell you what. I for a very brief moment, I taught college students, and college students are literally only interested in getting an A. That's it. This is why I don't teach anymore. Like, they are only interested in getting an A. They are not interested in introspection. They're not interested in learning. They're only interested in getting an A. And so I don't believe for one red second, not one, that students in K through 12 in large numbers were like, I can't believe we didn't self-flagellate ourselves for 12 years.
Washed.
This is why I homeschool.
No, we still have a curriculum that undermines and erases the lived experiences and the oppression of Black people.
Okay, I'm just curious. How many people in the chat learned about slavery, learned about the KKK, learned about the civil rights movement, learned about all of these things when you were in school? Because I absolutely did, and I went to school in Lillywhite, Vermont, in not a very good school district. I started learning about this stuff when I was in like elementary school. It was like fifth grade, maybe sixth grade. I was getting into middle school, but that's when they started teaching me about this stuff. How many people in the chat learned about this stuff in school? Yes, exactly. Yeah, slavery, civil rights movement, like most people learned about this stuff in school. Michael, thank you for the super sticker. I appreciate it.
And people of color, as well as their victories, as well as their triumphs. So talk about those histories with your kids. Go buy these books. Listen to podcasts. Watch movies together. Try to expose your white kids to an understanding of history that they're not getting in schools.
Well, why aren't they getting it in schools? Why aren't they being taught about this in schools? It makes no sense.
And this is really important, right? Because otherwise your kids are receiving a very one-dimensional, one-sided understanding of their history that they have no control over, right? And that you have no control over. So the more
make them feel bad for it.
Present a nuanced,
that makes sense,
multi-layered, complex understanding of the experiences of Black people and people of color in this country, the more your kids will be able to engage with this work from early on.
So
those are the big things I'd say. The last thing I would say is, as an educator, if you feel that the curriculum that your student is being taught or your kid is being taught is too whitewashed or erases particular voices in the narrative of the history of this country.
Okay, what were you?
One of the things that's kind of funny about what she just said about, if you don't think your kids are getting the history told the way it should be, blah, 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 you should take it upon yourself to educate them. There's actually a lot of rationale behind that. But I know these people well enough that's not what she's trying to say. If your kids aren't getting the version of history that I believe that they should have, then you should do it. Otherwise, no, don't. Right? Like, you can't tell the liberal version of history. You have
you can't tell the literal version of history.
The liberal version. You have to tell the critical. Yeah, the literal version, right?
Thank you.
You have to filter it all through critical social justice and teach that to your kids. That's what she's really saying. And this is always the case with these people when they come up with these ideas that sound like at its base like, okay, cool, right? Like it's like when intelligent design was a thing. They wanted science classrooms to teach the controversy, right? She's asking for the same thing.
Yeah, I don't even think she understands what she's asking for, though. I mean, like, I honestly don't understand. I honestly don't think she can comprehend the words she's putting together in sentences. I don't think she has the brain capacity to understand just how retarded what she's saying is, though.
Yeah, she probably doesn't understand. Exactly, she doesn't. Because if she actually understood what she was saying, she would be like, oh,
I can't say this.
Like, history is actually pretty complicated, and we have a lot of historical facts, but we tell history as and this is like the law of history, right? Mm-hmm. When you write history, what you do is you find historical facts. Nobody disagrees on the facts, right? That's what makes it a historical fact, plus interpretation, and that's where there's disagreement. The Civil War is a great example of that, right? Because there's basically two interpretations. The most popular right now is the Confederate as others, where they were just racist trying to preserve slavery. But there's also another interpretation, which is Confederates as Americans, which is what a lot of people that are, they still wave the Confederate flag, even though they claim to not be racist, and then actually makes sense depending on your interpretation of history using the same set of facts.
Yeah, even though in the South it's generally not called the Civil War, it's called the War of Northern Aggression.
Yeah, I mean that's what they say, and I could go on a little bit. Like, I'm not some Civil War expert, but I understand the differing interpretations, and I actually think that the Southern interpretation has a lot of truth that is oversimplified by the people that say that the Civil War was just fought over slavery.
Those are the actual smooth brains.
Yep.
Yeah, I got something. Somebody sent me in the DMs. I want to look at when we're done with this. Okay, it's like 3 minutes long.
All right, let's go through this for another 15 minutes, and then we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Does that sound good?
Sure.
We can cut off at exact 2 hours again.
All right.
I like
Lobby your local school district. Write letters. Start a petition. Get other parents involved.
I mean, the answer, like, why is she using the word normalize so much? Because they want to convince you that this is not already normal. They want to convince you that this stuff is not happening. They want to convince you that you need that new normal, when I'm sorry, like, we really didn't.
One of the areas that parents have actually a good amount of say in is the curriculum. And this is a place where you can use your white voice to really lobby for a more inclusive curriculum.
Use your white voice to lobby for a more inclusive curriculum. Do the work.
What? That again will fight these racist sentiments that are so pervasive among white people, because we didn't know, right? We weren't taught it. And so now is the time to make sure it is taught. So those were the 2 questions I received ahead of time.
We have a lot of questions coming in. If you do have a question, there's a Q&A button at the bottom that we will get to. So let me just grab.
Glorious. And let me actually just share.
I have to admit, Micah, I actually kind of think that's funny. I probably would have laughed uncontrollably if I had witnessed that scenario. I have to admit. Oh God, let me see. Sorry, guys. Or do what Morgan said to Don. You don't want to stop racism, then stop talking about it. Oh yes, you didn't care for racism in school. It just aimed for the A.
Yeah, Morgan Freeman said that to Don
4
Lemon.
S's of anti-racism, so that
It's
you
classic
can all see the steps.
Oh yes, let's see the slide. Let's see the slide of the 4 S's that you made up at 5 a.m.
All right. Go ahead, Jen.
There it is.
So the first question is for shut up and listen.
Okay. Let me tell you how this works. Like, she just talked for how long? 47 minutes. She wasn't prepared to give this presentation. She just put together a slide at 5 a.m. She's like, oh shit, I have to do this UNH presentation today. And then she just filled up the rest. Whatever she's getting paid with this, she got paid too much because she didn't prepare at all. That's what happened.
Is it okay to educate our friends and family, for example, on social media?
Is it okay to educate our friends and family on social media? No. Shut up. Follow rule number 2. Shut up.
Not about how I feel, but about the concepts you were talking about, for example, or something I've learned in anti-racist work. I know we can share the voices of people of color, but it is wrong. But is it wrong to also share what we've learned or are learning?
Yes.
Oh, that's a tough one. I have very mixed feelings about this, right? No. So the first answer I would say is no. I absolutely think you should be challenging and engaging your friends and loved ones. And I absolutely think resource sharing is critical in this. I mean, hello, why am I here? I am certainly not shutting up right now. But I think that there's a balance to that, right? And for me, to be quite frank, before I post anything, I have to do kind of an internal gut check of what are my motives for posting this. Because as I wrote about in the 5 ways to support your Black colleagues, performative allyship and virtue signaling is a very real thing. And that's when white people are trying to kind of prove we're one of the good white people. And so we kind of feign outrage.
Dude, if you feel the need to prove you're one of the good white people, you are part of the problem. I know I'm a good person. I don't need validation from anti-racist educators.
This is also another way of saying there's nothing you can do that can ever make you good enough.
Engaged in the work, but in a very superficial level. It's more about our own our own self-image, right? Wanting to be seen as a good white ally.
Did she just admit this is all a virtue signal? I'm reasonably sure she did. She just admitted that this was all a massive virtue signal.
It has anything to do with actually digging into the work. So I don't say that if you are posting something that's your own resources, your own opinions, that's a problem. But I do think it's important to do that internal gut check every time you're putting something out there, because it just serves to remind you what's the ultimate goal here, right? If you're moving a conversation towards an understanding of liberation for your white friends and family members.
Wait, I didn't think it was wait, did she just say that this was about liberating your white friends and family members? No, it's not. What are you talking about? I thought liberation was supposed to be for black and brown people.
That's in line with the
or black and brown bodies, I should say, probably.
Mission, right? I hope I answered that okay.
Which sounds threatening, but whatever.
How would you talk about the intersectionality?
Intersectionality, drink, bingo card.
With your example of Andover and Lawrence, because it's not just about race, it's about the intersection of race and class.
Oh my God! So they just admitted that this is a class thing, not a race thing, but they're like, it's intersectional.
And it's more complicated.
Right. And that's a great question. And I think you have to take an intersectional lens when you're talking about anti-racist work, right? Because all of these things feed into each other, right? And that's a great question. So Lawrence, yes, socioeconomically, it's much lower. Socioeconomically, it is poorer than Andover. It is also way less white than Andover. And those two things aren't mistakes, right? So I'm not talking about Lawrence.
What does that even mean?
You know why she's not talking about Lowell? And Lowell is like right next to there. Because there are a lot of poor white people in Lowell. A lot of poor white people in Lowell.
Being not safe because it's poorer. When I said those things, I was talking about the intersection of a lower socioeconomic status and a particular racial demographic.
Oh, now we're talking about socioeconomic status, but it's all intersectional. That's what I meant. I meant it was a combination of the two.
And so it's a great question. We always have to take an intersectional lens when thinking about liberation, right? Because, I mean, without getting too... One of the sources that I recommend is Kimberly Crenshaw, who talks about intersectionality, which again talks about the intersections of sexism, classism, racism, ableism. Talks about the ways in which oppressed identities intersect. So, yes, to that end.
Hey, yo, Black Magic, why haven't you sent me that email? Don't think I've forgotten.
Lawrence is also a lower socioeconomic status town, but it is also a more racially diverse town, and those things are not mutually exclusive.
So for the support part of this, what is the best way to emotionally support Black and brown people?
That's a great question. And I don't think I have an answer for that, because if I had an answer, that would be assuming that
it's impossible.
Every Black and brown person in this country needs the same thing right now, right?
It'll never be good enough.
We wouldn't want to make assumptions collectively about Black and brown people. We only want to make assumptions about white people as a collective. We don't want to make assumptions about Black and brown people collectively.
Well, no, because we've already done that for the last 40 years. It's the Democrat Party way.
Why, that's the crust. The crust. That's the crux of the crust of the matter.
That's the crust of the matter.
Actually, hang on. I have a side question, guys. I need some help from you, because Salty Nicholas Prize says, Carlin, do you have a name for your followers yet? I don't have a name for my followers, and this is something I've actually been thinking about. I need a clever name for my followers. I've got some ideas, but if you have ideas about what clever name I should call my followers, please put them in the chat. We'll have a little vote, maybe. VT Num says, listening to her reminds me of Tom Cruise talking about Scientology. It is a cult. Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
that their experience is monolithic, right? And it's obviously not. So, you know, I have Black friends in my life right now who are engaging with me as if we would any other day. We are talking about ice cream. We're talking about TV shows. I have other Black friends.
What the fuck? I mean, seriously.
Say, like, I treat my black and brown friends like normal people. We talk about ice cream and TV shows.
What the actual fuck? Right?
What was I saying before?
Right.
The chromosomes from her mom and pa create retards, and they call them dumb ginger bitch. I mean, she's a dumb.
See, man, that was something that I've worked with a lot of divergent populations. Okay, I'll put it that way. And very, very rich people and very, very poor people have a lot of stuff in common, man. It's very weird. Like, they name their kids weird shit. And they don't acknowledge homosexuality. They don't acknowledge mental illness, right? It's really these weird parallels. So, in a way, I can see how a rich person could cop to this way of thinking, and because I don't know exactly what I'm trying to say here.
How the fuck did she pass the psychological evaluation to become a teacher?
I don't think you need to take
I'm
one.
an anti-racist, and the diversity, equity, and inclusion department of the university was like, hire her and give her all the monies.
Exactly. Money, money, money.
I don't know what the big deal is.
And colleagues that are like, I do not want to talk. I'll text you when I want to talk. And so for me to assume that different people in my life all need the same thing right now is really hard. I think that you can let
they are.
I kind of like the idea, like a lot of you guys are playing with like the crew with a K. I kind of like that. I kind of like that. We're gonna. I'm not committed to it yet. But we're gonna see.
And
it's a good one.
On a very practical.
What? Oh, never mind.
Practical level, I check in, and I say, I've texted my friends and colleagues just thinking about you.
She's definitely a double dipper.
And
100%.
Some of them have texted thanks, which in my mind says, I don't want to talk to you, white lady. And some of them have said, oh, I love that. Thanks so much.
Wait. Some of her friends have said, I don't want to talk to you, white lady. Like, okay, what that means. Like, she texts her friends just saying, hey, checking in, how are you doing? And they're like, I don't want to talk to you, white lady. You know what that means? It means she has token friends. People that, like, aren't really her friends and that she doesn't really know, but that she keeps in her life just because they're black or brown. And she thinks that makes her anti-racist. She's like, I'm going to pander to these black and brown people. And they're like, well, you don't even know anything about us other than our skin color. And so she texts them, she's like, hey, how are you doing? I'm just checking in. They're like, leave me alone. You don't care about me. You only care about my skin color.
Like, that's very nice. And they do want to engage. These are your friends, right? These are your colleagues, right? It can be very hard to know what to do right now. Excuse me. But I think the worst thing you could do is nothing.
Hold on. I don't
what
know
if so I think it's valid and worthy to check in. But I also think
pause.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't get it, right? Because I constantly, for my black friends, I just message them and I start every text with, hello, my black friend. Just so they know I acknowledge their blackness.
But if you want to know how to support people, don't you just ask them what they need?
Yeah.
I mean, I would say you should treat them like you treat the rest of your friends, but that'd be racist.
If somebody needs support with something, you need to ask them what they need first. You don't just go in and assume you know what they need. That's fucking... You want to talk about setting yourself up for failure every time? Don't make assumptions.
Well, no, like, what's funny is, like, the way she's describing this, it's actually pretty hilarious, right? Because she's just constantly like, man, black people are so oppressed. So she's probably just randomly going through her contacts that are black and just for no reason being like, hey.
Are you being oppressed today? How's the oppression going? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Just out of the blue.
Just need to. If you need to abuse somebody, I'm here.
God, racism is so bad that like I should check on all my black friends. It just goes down the list of her black contacts. She probably has them in her phone, like whatever name -POC. Like it's an entire grouping.
You know,
system.
it's like every time. All right, so we've done this like for a couple of weeks now, and we always end up in this spot, man. And it always pisses me off that these people are the disconnect of these people's actual true, like real, internalized racism, man. And that whole projection thing. It's just
it's the iron law of woke projection.
It's ridiculous and very scary. It scares me for my race, human race. You know.
It is certainly not beneficial to humanity. And also, I'm gonna call it here, right? Let's just end this. Like we've gone through. She's in the Q&A section.
Yeah.
We actually have made it all the way to the Q&A section. So with the filtering, there's at least 20 more minutes worth of video. I don't want to do a part 4 of this.
All right.
And I know you have a viewer submitted video that you want to put up.
Yeah,
I do want to just go back to these 4 S's of anti-racism that are staring us all in the face.
Yes. Show
and
up.
they all piss me off. The first one, show up. That's the one that pisses me off practically, because they do that. They really do. They always show up. They're always going to be there. And unless people that are willing to stand up to them start showing up, then they're going to continually get positions of power in random institutions, right? Because activists show up, and if you don't show up, you don't get represented, and you basically you just concede the platform to the people that show up.
Got you.
The shut up and listen, that is something we have talked about, actually, like just going back. It really is the hierarchy of oppression nonsense, right? Where if you're higher up on the hierarchy of oppression, you cannot say anything to the lived experience of the people that are lower. The whole support thing, I think she just threw that one in there. But the school yourself, it doesn't actually mean school yourself, right? It doesn't mean look at this issue in depth from
these could be.
It means adopt our ideology. That's literally what that means.
Yeah,
it means nothing else than conform to what we're telling you.
It could be a pamphlet, for a rehab, about going to AA meetings. It's so vague. You just show up, shut up and listen, support, school yourself. It's just be a submissive, just submit.
The support is one of the ones that I think is ambiguous, but I know what 1, 2, and 4 mean when it comes to the critical.
Well, I know what an athletic supporter does and how it works, so that's probably what it means.
So it's it probably is similar to that.
Yeah, exactly. All right, you want to? All right, so this is Lake Worth City, Florida. Lake Worth, Florida. The city council, and their opening prayers. And listen to this.
Everyone would please rise for the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Vice Mayor Scott Maxwell. Duly noted. Our collective atheism, which is to say loving empathy, scientific evidence, and critical thinking, leads us to believe that we can create a better, more equal community without religious divisions. May we pray together. Mother Earth, we gather today in your redeeming and glorious presence to invoke your eternal guidance in the universe.
What the fuck is this?
The original creator.
Listen.
Creator of all things. May the efforts of this council blend the righteousness of Allah with the all-knowing wisdom of Satan. May Zeus, the great god of justice, grant us strength tonight.
That's not
Jesus might forgive our shortcomings, while Buddha enlightens us through his divine affection. We praise you, Krishna, for the sanguine sacrifice that freed us all. After all, if Almighty Thor is with us, who can ever be against us?
Thor was, oh my
Finally,
god, shut
for
up.
the bounty of logic, reason, and science, we simply thank the atheists, agnostics, humanists, who now account for 1 in 5 Americans, and growing rapidly.
You're not
In
growing
closing,
rapidly.
let us, above all, love one another, not to obtain mythical rewards for ourselves now, hereafter, or based on superstitious threats of eternal damnation, but rather embrace secular-based principles of morality and do good for goodness sake. And so we prayed, so what? Thank you, Council.
Oh my god, fuck you and your fucking neck.
What,
you
what an
skinny
asshole,
bald-ass
man.
motherfucker.
Christopher Hitchens just rolled over in his grave.
Well, okay, and Krishna's going to shoot somebody down with some goddamn lightning bolts. Thor's going to beat somebody with a goddamn hammer, and Zeus was never the god of justice. What the fuck is that all about? That was fucking Athena, but okay, whatever. Let's just bastardize all the religions while trying to pretend that we aren't pushing atheism as a religion for the people
Exactly.
under colors of authority.
It's spreading,
Oh, no.
you know? Like
that was antithetical to like what atheists were supposed to be.
Right. No, man. A real atheist is just they're living let live, man. A real atheist doesn't give a shit. You know, the anti-theism is what that was, man. It's just it's real. Well, it's designed as definitely designed to trigger, especially on the night before Easter.
Us anti-theists were wrong.
It's all right though.
The anti-theists were wrong. I was part of it, right? It made sense as a kid from the 90s to be very skeptical of religion, but the only reason for that is because you had powerful religious interest groups that actually were affecting policy in society.
Well, there was personal things that happened in my life.
They were legislating morality, but it's almost like we did too good of a job. Right? They did too good of a job. And like I remember distinctly, all of a sudden the atheist community decided to split itself up between atheists and atheist plus. You know what that plus was?
Anti-theists.
No, the plus was social justice.
Oh, was it?
It was always social justice. And this was back in 2008. And all of a sudden there was a rift. That's why you have people that started out in the skeptic community, like Sargon of Akkad, for example, that apparently, according to YouTube, is a right-wing alt-right loon. Right?
Yeah, he cut his teeth doing anti-Christian videos, though. That's how he started.
Mm-hmm. He's not the only one. Count Dankula is similar.
Yeah.
And James Lindsay is actually a great example, because that's literally where he came from. He actually was a religious scholar, right? Like, he was really into it. Then became an anti-theist, and now he's going anti-social justice, and he's making all these comparisons, and he's just like, we were totally wrong about the problems of theism.
Yeah,
like there's some similarities, but he was just like, we went too far. We should have just been like, you can be all as theistic as you want. Just understand that not everybody's going to believe the same thing you do, and we're going to live under the same set of liberal principles, which actually spawned, religion actually did spawn liberalism, right?
Yes.
Because there were so many differing opinions that were like, okay, we need to come together, right? Under one philosophy that we can all agree on, which allows you to follow your religion and other people to follow their religion, and not force it upon anybody else. In fact, in the early days of America, the reason we decided to have religious liberty was not because there were religions other than Christianity. It's that the sects of Christianity were so different, they were usually battling against each other.
Well, it had to do with the Baptists being afraid of being slaughtered by the dozens every day, like they were in Britain for 300 fucking years.
Yep. I mean, that's a big part of it. And even today, like the Christian Coalition is a fairly new thing. Even I think you don't have to go back that far. Where I mean, I think you only have to go back like maybe half a decade to go back to where like the atheists and agnostics were actually a very big voting bloc, because the blocks of religious voters, they were very isolated in their own sect of Christianity. They were not brought together as one until the 70s and 80s under Reagan. But wow, that video.
It's the top of the hour, y'all.
I can't believe that shit. I would have lost my cookies if I was in that.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I'm an atheist and I would have stood up. It's like, this is fucking stupid. Like, what are you trying to prove?
I would have lost my cookies. I would have interrupted that, whatever that was. It was not a prayer, but
that fucktard thought he was edgy, man. That's that's what it is.
Oh my god! And I'm a pagan.
Right.
Like that was so insulting.
They shit on everybody. They shit on everybody. And see, Frank Zappa could do it, and it would be funny.
So I didn't even think it was like
that. Wouldn't even. It was designed to be funny, but it wasn't even close.
Well, like I would have thought that was funny in a vacuum. Like if it was like just supposed to be some skit, right? That would have been funny. But that was an actual, probably like city level council. It was an actual.
That was the vice mayor.
The vice mayor.
That was the second in charge of the city.
Yeah.
That was the vice mayor.
Florida. #Florida. All right.
It's still stabbing. It's like, is the CRT done now? I gotta watch Sleazy Ciao Everyone later, and we're about ready to wrap up. I've been pretty adamant about keeping the stream down to 2 hours, just to keep the rewatchability there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Shillage, ladies first, always.
Well, if you guys aren't watching the breakdown of the Waco hearings, you're missing out. And that's on the Insomnus channel.
It's exceptional. I agree.
And it's really fascinating to watch the younger bucks that weren't there to watch the whole thing break down, realize just how shitty our government has been for how long, and realize just how many pieces of shit they're dealing with today were around back then. That's fun.
Dude.
So definitely check that out. And if you aren't checking out Bubonic for Use, Massacre Fear Porn, I know I have the words wrong. I always get it wrong. That's another nifty show. They're woefully undone or under watched and under followed. In terms of music, there is a young man by the name of Brian Andrews who sounds like John Hopper from the Blues Travelers, but he sings like country songs and he's fun. So y'all should go check out Brian Andrews. And if y'all aren't checking out Cream Stream on Fridays, you're missing out too.
Sweet. Accelerate.
You can follow me on Twitter at Sean Tizzle. I will type that in the chat. Otherwise, I don't do anything on YouTube except for make sure I'm on the Saturday streams. And if I can, I try to hop into the Cream streams on Fridays, which diverts right back to Irate. Tell everybody what you got going on.
All right, so tomorrow, catch me at 5 Eastern, 4 Central, and 2 Pacific for a surprise. And then we're going to be doing a Cold War spy game thing on Monday with Becca. So, yeah. Communism, whatever you want to call it. I just call it a boring, abhorrent piece of doctrine that we can live without. And on that note, I'm going to say goodbye.
Okay, bye, man. Later, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. and we will see you next week where we talk about something else related to critical social justice bullshit. In fact, there's not enough stories coming. There's actually so many stories coming through on it. I don't know what our topic's going to be, but you're in the area. Shit like this stuff.